Hi, gang. Appreciate you campers coming back to us. This is Aging Gracefully. I am Matthew Essex. Today is a very important day. We're talking about Friday the 13th, the final chapter. 1984's release, directed by Joseph Zito. This is the fourth installment in the Friday the 13th franchise, and this one's a banger. Now, we pick up right where we left off in part 3. Jason is on the floor of a barn with an axe wedged in his head. He had a rough outing the last time around, and he gets strapped to a gurney and sent off to a hospital. Now, the medical examiner there is trying to get a little frisky with the nurse, and he's not paying attention to what he does with the corpse of a serial killer. Needless to say, he doesn't lock him up the way that he should. Jason decides to get up, stretch, and go back to work. He dispatches 2 people in the hospital. We're off and running. Now, this movie doesn't take place at a camp. There are no campers. There's no camp counselors. But the cast here is so good. We have basically 2 houses in the woods, one of which belongs to the Jarvis family. Trish is the oldest of the 2 children. She's our final girl. Again, I can't say enough good things about her. I've only got 5 minutes, so I won't filibuster. But we do have Tommy Jarvis in his first appearance in this franchise. And he just so happens to be played by Corey Feldman, who, for those of you who don't know, was king of the 1980s. He was in everything. Goonies, Lost Boys. He was in The Gremlins. He was in Stand By Me. I mean, the kid was everywhere. And seeing him in a Friday the 13th film, for me as a fan of Friday the 13th, and as a fan of Corey Feldman, was tremendous. Now, the Jarvis family's great, but right next door, there is a house rented by a bunch of kids for a innocent weekend at the lake. Great idea, right? Of these kids, we've got a young Crispin Glover. We also have Judy Aronson, and for those of you who don't know, she is from Weird Science. She is from American Ninja. She's also from The Dreams of Most Men in the 80s. She was a knockout, probably still is. But in the 80s, she was a big deal. Everybody in that house, every one of those kids, plays their role so well. This is one of those few movies that you can't find a gripe about anybody in this cast. They all do a great job. We also meet Rob. Now, he comes along when Trish and Tommy are having car trouble. He's carrying a gun. He's got a knife. He's a big guy, and he's asking questions about what's going on around there. Are there any kids around? So immediately, we know that he knows something. Turns out he's got a backstory tied to his sister who was in part 2, who was part of that massacre out there. So he knows about Jason. He knows there's a good chance that Jason's running around somewhere, and he wants to make sure he can find him. Fantastic, tense, scary sequences. The battle at the end, once we realize it's just Trish and Tommy left, Trish really gives Jason all he can handle. I know we said that about Chris in the last movie, and she did a good job as well. But Trish not only can fight, but she gets away when she needs to get away. She drops the coldest line in the entire franchise when she's getting backed down by Jason and she's waving Jason's machete at him. And she looks at this dude and says, "I'm going to give you something to remember us by." It was perfect. It was executed well. Her brother's upstairs shaving his head. He's got a plan. I don't know what he's doing. In the long run, it winds up working. Overall, you've got 13 kills in this film. So as the formula goes, we're up from 10, 10, and 12. The best and most effective death in this movie, we'll call it a death because they're calling it the final chapter, was the eventual demise of Jason Voorhees in this film. Trish wasn't playing around. She meant what she said, and she followed through with it. And I'm not going to spoil it. Everybody should have seen this film by now. It's 40 years old, but it is a great one. It's one that you can sit down and really, truly enjoy. Obviously, you know that means I think it ages gracefully. I gave it an 8 out of 10. I mean, I might be a little low giving it that kind of a grade. I think it's just that good. If you get an opportunity and you want to sit down and you want to watch something scary, you want to watch something a little campy, I gotta recommend this one. It's fantastic. You won't regret it. And you're more than welcome to yell at me after the fact if you thought you wasted your time. That's it. That's all for this one. I'll see you guys on the other side.